Warning: some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
One day somebody does something unspeakable to someone else, to someone you hardly knew. Man, you do something about it, because you can.
This story comes to us from the San Bernardino Sun, and this is proof that eventually everything comes to light. And you have to understand that the world works on this weird concept that eventually what's in the dark will come to light. Why? Because the sun will always rise at the dawn. Going to Fontana, California, where within hours after Thomas Perez Jr. called police to report his father missing, he found himself in an interrogation room confronted by Fontana police detectives determined to extract a confession that he killed his dad. Now, Perez told the police that his father, 71-year-old Thomas Perez Sr., went out for a walk with the family dog about 10 p.m. on August 7th of 2018. The dog returned within minutes without Perez's father. Investigators didn't believe his story, and over the next 17 hours, they grilled him to try and get the truth. According to court records, detectives told Perez that his father was dead, that they had recovered his body, and it now wore a toe tag at the morgue. They said they had evidence that Perez killed his father and that he should just admit it, according to records that they have. Perez insisted he didn't remember killing anyone, but detectives allegedly told him that the human mind often tries to suppress troubling memories. Wish we could suppress cop memories. At one point during the interrogation, the investigators even threatened to have his pet Labrador retriever, Margosha, euthanized as a stray and brought the dog into the room so he could say goodbye. And they said, "Okay, your dog's now gone. Forget about it," said an investigator. The quote, "How can you sit there? How can you sit there and say you don't know what happened? And your dog is sitting there looking at you knowing that you killed your dad," says a detective. Says, "Look at your dog. She knows because she was walking through all the blood."
An unrelenting interrogation of Perez Jr.
Murdered your dad.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No.
Yeah,
Yes.
Daddy's dead because of you.
No.
Yes, not only that, but poor Morgan here.
Margot.
Margot had to witness it.
Yep. I walked through the blood.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, finally, after curling up with the dog on the floor, Perez broke down and confessed. He said he stabbed his father multiple times with a pair of scissors during an altercation in which his father hit Perez over the head with a beer bottle. You're going to find out something. Just listen for a second. He was so distraught that he even tried to hang himself with a drawstring from his shorts after being left alone in the interrogation room.
Perez Jr.'s attorney.
The worst act of deliberate cruelty that I've seen suing the police for 40 years. I've been suing the police for 40 years, and I've never seen the cops be that cruel to someone.
Steering on behalf of Perez Jr. sued Fontana and won a nearly $900,000 settlement.
Perez was arrested, handcuffed, and transported to a mental hospital for 72-hour observation. It's kind of what we call 5150. But later that day, the truth derailed the detectives' theory and their confession because Perez's father wasn't dead, nor even missing. Thomas Sr. was at Los Angeles International Airport waiting for a flight to go see his daughter in Northern California. But police didn't immediately tell Perez. Steering filed a civil rights lawsuit in federal court against the city of Fontana, California, alleging that the police psychologically tortured Perez and coerced a false confession without first determining that the father had actually been slain. The lawsuit was recently settled for nearly $900,000, just shy of $1 million. Perez agreed to the settlement rather than take the case to trial out of concern that a jury award could be overturned on appeal on grounds of qualified immunity for the police. Did you hear that? Generally, qualified immunity protects law enforcement officers unless they violate clearly established law arising from a case with nearly identical facts, according to the Legal Defense Fund. Now, of course, Fontana police did not return an email seeking comment. Of course not. Are you kidding me? 3 of the involved officers remain employed with the department. Did you hear that? Let me stop that for a second. 3 of the police officers remain employed with the Fontana PD. They're still cops. These 3 cops that were torturing this guy are still cops. What's going on in Fontana? 1 other officer has retired. That's right. And if it's the officer that keeps saying it's a guy I went to high school with, if it's the guy they keep saying. In court documents and depositions, police say they had reason to believe Perez was lying. First, they noted he seemed distracted and unconcerned during the 911 call, according to court records. Officers responding to the call noted the father's cell phone and wallet were still at the home, which was in disarray. But you said you found his body. Police saw the mess as a sign of struggle, they say. But Attorney Steering said Perez was renovating the house and had argued with his father about it.
The detectives extract a false murder confession from Perez.
We just told you we found your dead dad, and you don't give a.
That detective is lying. Perez Sr. was not dead. But in this moment, Fontana detectives don't know where he is. Perez Jr. reported him missing after they had an argument. A search warrant was served at the family home. Perez Sr.'s wallet, cell phone, and even some bloodstains were discovered. A canine also alerted to the odor of possible human remains.
Additionally, a police dog sniffed out the scent of a corpse in the father's bedroom, and there were small bloodstains in the house. A corpse? But he was still alive, right? Steering later would say the bloodstains were caused by the father's finger prick diabetes test. Perez's lawsuit claims detectives also refused for several hours to retrieve his medication for high blood pressure, asthma, depression, and stress. Perez became so distraught that he began pulling out his hair, hitting himself, making anguished noises, and tearing off his shirt while police encouraged him to confess, according to a summary of the case written by U.S. District Court Dolly Gee, G-E-E.
The psychological effects of hours of grilling take their toll. Detectives keep pushing. Perez spirals further. Eventually, Perez Jr. makes a false confession to killing his father. All this, and 71-year-old Perez Sr. was alive. He went to his girlfriend's home, but didn't have his cell phone.
Now, she writes he was sleep deprived, mentally ill, and significantly undergoing symptoms of withdrawal from his psychiatric medications. Now, at one point during the interrogation, investigators drove Perez to get coffee and then to some housing tracts where he had been looking to buy. Detectives berated Perez, insisting he did not need his medication and that they knew he killed his father, according to the case summary. Now, the quote, when can you take us to show us where Daddy is? Asked one of the investigators. And later during the interview, the detectives told Perez's father's body had actually been found. Now, asked in a deposition about his line of questioning, one of the detectives said, I believed at the time if we told him that we had located the body, then maybe he would give us more information about what had occurred.
I watched the video and watched the interrogation of Tom Perez. What I divined is that they could get you and I to confess to killing Abe Lincoln if they wanted to. It's unbelievable. And they're not amateurs, and they know what they're doing, and they know how to do it.
Steering says even after detectives learned Perez Sr. was alive, they did not tell Perez Jr. Instead, they had him held for mental distress.
Once they learned this, instead of telling him that, because of what they did to him. They 5150 him. They place him on a civil protective custody hold.
So we lied to him. I mean, really lied, because the guy was at LAX, airport. But in her case summary, Judge Gee wrote that the circumstances suggested to Perez that he was not free to leave. She also noted there was no legitimate government interest that would justify treating Perez in this manner while he was in medical distress. There was no governmental interest in treating him that way. Then his father turns up alive. Police got a phone call from his sister who said their father was alive and well. He had actually walked to the train station in Fontana and rode the line to Los Angeles County to visit a relative and then took a bus to visit a female friend, says Attorney Steering. Perez Sr. later went to the airport to await a flight to Oakland to visit his daughter. Now, of course, police picked up the father at the airport and brought him to the Fontana police station. But they didn't stop the investigation there. No. Detectives obtained a warrant to search Perez's house for evidence that he had assaulted an unknown victim, according to Gee's summary. It appears there was no victim. There was none. Perez was not released until the end of the 3-day psychological observation period. He then retrieved his dog from Riverside County Animal Services, tracking her down through a chip that she has in her. They didn't even tell him where the dog was, I don't think. While Gee concluded Fontana detectives had sufficient reason to believe an offense had been committed, she criticized officers for their interrogation tactics. She said a reasonable juror could conclude that the detectives inflicted unconstitutional psychological torture on Perez. Their tactics indisputably led to Perez's subjective confusion and disorientation to the point he falsely confessed to killing his father and tried to take his own life. Do you see that? So anytime, right when we start, maybe there's some good cops out there. Maybe, here we got Fontana Police Department. We got this going on. And 3 of these monsters, these evil mother, are still working for the Fontana Police Department. And I wager they're still working for the Fontana Police Department today, even after this lawsuit was settled. Right when you start having faith in and maybe there's some good cops out there, boom, the bottom drops out and you get this. I have no faith. I don't know what's going on, man.